Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Travel Cast, a podcast where youth from around the world come together to share stories on travel. We are part of Travel Unity, a nonprofit that has a vision of global travel industry that welcomes everyone and creates environments for staff, visitors, and local communities to all feel seen, heard, and respected. I am Mackenzie, and I'm going to be facilitating this episode today. And I'm so happy you guys are listening. So for our first topic, I wanted to introduce Earth and Ethan to they started looking into the highest rated travel locations and ranking them themselves after researching those areas. So we're gonna start with Earth.
Hello, guys, this is Earth, and I'll be going first. There are four different places that I found, and if you look at different articles online, France and Spain are always ranked first, and Ireland and Singapore, not so much. To start, in last place, in number four, we have France, specifically Paris. So, last and not least, or number one, the most beautifully underrated country, Ireland. I have not gone to Ireland, but from what I've heard, Irish people are the most welcoming groups of people ever known. They have a gas station dedicated to President Obama called Barack Obama Plaza, and they also have a song. Yes, you heard that right. Aside from the people, their culture is very beautiful, especially the traditional dances, the Irish step dance and the Cayley, and the landscape is very magnificent. When I think of heaven, I think of Ireland. Next, I'm going to pass it to Ethan, and thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Ethan. Thanks for having me again. Couple of top-rated travel destinations that I have found definitely have to be New York City and definitely Hong Kong, which is a special administrative region of China. But I'll start off with New York City first. So given that I've been living here all of my life, I do want to say that we have lots of things to offer in the city, such as the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island. We actually did go on a trip in my junior year of high school where we visited Ellis Island when we were learning about immigration and the immigration movement in U.S. history. It was really fun. We also went to Coney Island and Brighton Beach for senior skip day, which happened a couple of days ago, but that's. Um, New York City also has the one Times Square, 42nd Street, and they also have the Wildlife Conservation Society, WCS sites, which 5 different zoos as well. The city is bustling and is really the city that never sleeps for a reason. No matter what time, you find New Yorkers lining up for a hot slice of pizza or shopping around K-Town at midnight, which I actually did do a couple months ago, which was really enlightening, but kind of destroyed my sleep schedule and kind of threw me into the senioritis picture here. Really like this kind of setting as well because it's a very high energy and high paced, and that there's always currently something to do, especially with nature. Considering that I currently intern as a discovery guide at the Queen Zoo in Wildlife Conservation Society. So that's about New York, right? But I want to continue to Hong Kong now. Very similar to New York, it is one of the most densely populated areas and a major world financial center. We've also boast other landmarks such as Victoria Peak and Hong Kong Disneyland, which is very similar to Orange County, California's Disneyland, in which they also have been very accommodating to guests, considering that Hong Kong was a British colony and they speak English there. When my parents did live in Hong Kong, though, they did find that the nearby suburbs were to be gated communities and was common to find two-story houses as well. They've always said that if political tensions weren't as high as they currently are now, the family would have definitely stayed put and raised me in Hong Kong or either in Melbourne, which is where my father went to college. Grandfather went to college, the University of Melbourne. Although I do have a slight bias about Hong Kong and its attractions, considering both my parents are from there, despite the city having a lot of similarities to New York and other financial centers, I would definitely have to pick New York City, given my familiarity and the amount of nature found within such close distance, which wraps up my part.
Thank you both for sharing. Earth, I've always wanted to go to Ireland. Ireland is really just I think very underrated because of, it's mostly known for its nature instead of the bustling city like New York City. And I really think it's interesting that um, Ethan, you've been able to grow up in such a highly visited city and it's so popular. I just think that's really interesting. For our next topic, we're gonna have two people from my group talk about which country and or state they would travel to and why.
Hi, I'm Evie, and I'll be starting. So, one place that I really want to visit is Canada, anywhere in Canada. Even though Canada is often compared to the US and may not seem as special or exotic compared to other regions, I will say that a few years ago, I had this random urge to plan out the entirety of my future adult life. And that led me to research for what the best countries in the world were. So through that research, I found that the place that was most appealing to me was Canada. I actually found that statistically, Canadians lived longer, and there was a 2021 assessment of safety in which Canada scored about 80% higher than America, and the food sold is healthier. Universities are amazing there, and they cost way less. And on top of that, the weather is so much colder than here, which I love. I currently live in New York, and right now it's spring at the time of the podcast, and it's around 70 degrees, and I cannot stand the heat. So I would love cooler weather there. And I also love having exposure to new languages too. So I would love the mixture of English and French there so that I could maybe pick up a third language. And I also read that socially, the laws set in place were more inclusive, and they also have a really good emphasis on equality and justice, and overall, like, have a lot of humanitarian values embedded in them. And I love that depending on where you are in Canada, it can be the bustling city environment that I'm already used to, or some very tranquil greenery. And I really love both of those environments. One of my mother's friends lives in Canada and sends the most beautiful photos, both of like city landscapes and also like kind of like farm-like environment, which it's honestly the most beautiful thing. It's colorful and vibrant. And some parts of it reminds me a lot of New York. And of course, how could I say no to free healthcare? So, yeah, I had a bit of a year-long phase where I just researched Canada and was completely set on moving to Canada for good before I turned 17, which was extremely unrealistic, but I was 13. And I even got that friend of my mother's who lives in Canada to bring me a University of Toronto hoodie because his son goes there. And I still have that hoodie in my closet. And I also got these really good maple syrup mints, which I thought would be gross, but they were amazing. And Canada is known for their maple syrup. So yeah, I love a lot about Canada. And even though I'm not like as infatuated with it as I was then, I would really love to go. And yeah, any part of it. I love it.
Evie, I love that. Hi everyone, it's Sydney. I mean, if we listen to past podcasts, I have a connection with Canada too, so I could get into that later. But everything you're saying, for my year that I was living there and for the past when I visited family, it pretty much holds up. It's a really wonderful place and absolutely stunning with a lot of history embedded, which I love. And I guess that kind of transitions into my place that I've always wanted to travel. And just in general, I definitely am attracted to places, songs, art, whatever it is that have a history to them, that have a story. And I mean, hey, in the US, there's not too much beautiful history here. But I still feel like I can appreciate art that comes from other countries and everything like that. And I'm definitely drawn to discovering history around the world outside of the US. And that brings me to, I guess I just want to say, a short bucket list. I would love to go to New York. And yes, it's kind of crazy. I haven't spent or taken a vacation to New York. One time when I was coming back from Montreal, Canada, we had a layover in New York and we were offered a voucher to stay there overnight. And my mom, my brother, and I decided to take it. We got a hotel at maybe 9 or 10 p.m., walked around Times Square. I can barely remember it at this point. It was definitely probably 12, 15 years ago. But I had a good 10, 12 hours in New York, but I definitely want to spend more time there, especially considering everything Evie and Ethan have said, which you can check out in our last podcast. But I'm definitely curious, about it. I think it'd be a really wonderful place to explore and all that good stuff. And other places I'd want to visit, Europe. I have not been to Europe, Italy, France, Greece, so many places I would love to go to. And I actually have down here Scotland and Ireland because I feel like the history is so palpable there. And everything I've seen, and okay, yes, I'm referring to the show Outlander, where they're in Scotland. And I don't know if anyone's seen it, but I love that series. I think it's awesome. And it shows such beautiful history of, they're not in the present. I don't know when it was based, maybe in the 30s. Don't quote me on that. But it shows from the 30s to way back when. So it was really cool juxtaposition. And yeah, I'm just attracted to places that preserve their history and who have that within their environments. But the main one, which I've chatted about before, maybe not with our current TUYAC, but with our other programs, I have a dream destination and I want to go to Bolivia, specifically for one quote unquote attraction that I've seen. And that is going to be the Uyuni salt flats. And apparently they're the largest salt flats in the world. But before I get started there, yeah, Bolivia, it's in South America and they have 37 languages that I saw in a brief research. They speak the majority Spanish. And they also have indigenous languages, Quechua 18% and Amara 10%. And already just so much history within having 37 or whatever the actual number is. I think that's wonderful. So that is a little bit of background, and I definitely am more inclined on vacations to go somewhere relaxing and, sit in a climate with a body of water and whatever that may look like. But this trip has not left my mind for probably over 10 years. So I'm definitely interested in it. And the salt flats, I ended up seeing it. I think it was in a travel vlog of some sort, and I was completely blown away. I have a deep fascination for the sky. Yeah, the sky. I love the stars. I love looking up at night. I love watching the sunset. That feels like the most amazing experience ever. And it's available to all of us every single night. And that feels like such a, I don't know what the word is. I adore the sunset and I look forward to it every night. If I can get out there, I will definitely go check it out. But yeah, so clouds too, when it's the day after a rain and there's just so many beautiful clouds, it's like the most beautiful thing to me, honestly. So in this vlog, I saw that when it's the wet season, which is from December to April, combining words left and right here. But basically what happens when it's wet on the salt flats, it reflects the sky. And if there's clouds up there, it's just one huge mirror. So, oh my gosh, to be surrounded by that, I would absolutely love that. But also they have a dry season that's May to January, and that is just as beautiful. And it has crystallized salt patterns that form when it's all dried up. So yeah, I definitely don't want to rely on seeing it during the wet season because you never know if you'll catch a rainy day or you'll catch it when it's wet. So I don't want to rely on that being the main point, even though maybe it might be. But I'm definitely curious to discover Bolivia in different ways. When I was doing research, there was so many natural sites, a variety, hikes, exploring local islands, lakes, capturing whatever beauty of the world that they have is awesome. They also have a witch market, which seems interesting and cool, as well as the highest cable car in the world. So I thought that was awesome too, and I'd be curious to explore those as well. And then I guess just a couple fun facts about it is the salt flats are home to approximately 50 to 70% of Earth's total lithium, which are used to make batteries. And I saw there that it's a breeding ground for different species of pink flamingo, which is super cool. So I thought that was fun, and doing research on this was definitely interesting. And yeah, really, really fun to do. So that is it for me.
Thank you guys so much for sharing. I am actually in Maine, so I'm only about 2 hours away from the Canadian border, and I must say that being able to interact with Canadians on a regular basis is just so nice and so refreshing. They are so like they are just amazing people, and like in the few jobs I've had them come to, you know, get food, and just being able to talk to them is just amazing. I love their perspectives. And then Sydney, I have seen some of the vlogs about the salt flats, and they look amazing. I have to agree with you there. It kind of reminds me of like trips that I took to like the Rocky Mountains or to Moab, like Canyonlands, where it's just like something so massive is just so hard to comprehend. And the beauty is just, again, so hard to comprehend. It's just like um, overload. It's just amazing. Um, so, which that kind of reminds me of our next topic. Um, whoa. I'm going to be talking about hidden gems of popular tourist destinations that are not often heard of, and I'm going to be starting this off. So, as someone who's taken a lot of road trips with my family, I have seen a lot of places that are in the middle of nowhere that no one would ever know without you know, taking the interstate across the country. And one of those places is in Moab, Utah, right by the Canyonlands National Park, and it's called the Hole in the Rock Museum. I believe we actually made a post about this on our Instagram page. And it was originally a cave in the early 20th century that a lot of travelers stayed in when they were traveling through the deserts of Moab. And two brothers, Leo and Albert Christensen, they both stayed in this cave when they were traveling through. And that kind of inspired them to make this cave into a diner in 1945. And 12 years after they opened the diner, Albert had excavated about 50,000 cubic feet of sandstone and created a 14-room house. And he lived in that cave, physically lived in that cave with his wife until he passed away in 1957. And his wife naturally took over the business, and she made a gift shop that she sold her handmade rock jewelry. A fun fact, there's a lot of precious gemstones that you can find in Moab. It's really cool place. Just in general, I recommend going to Moab, but she didn't pass until 1974. But while she was alive, she also started giving tours of her house. And it's pretty funny. There's stories that you can read about where there were times that she'd have tour guides giving tours and she'd just be napping on the couch, or she'd just be, you know, messing with her doll collection because she had a very large doll collection. But after she passed, a young couple bought the home and the shops, and that was in 2000, from her son that owned the property at the time. And since then, they still own it to this day. They have added a zoo and 2 more gift shops. And I want to mention that it is a very well-known spot in Utah and in the surrounding states like Wyoming and Colorado. But other than that, nobody really knows about it. And I don't want to say that I want it to be more well-known, because I think that might take away from how cozy and special it is. But I feel like more people should take the time to go on road trips and kind of discover these things for themselves. Because I think that's the best experience, when you get to just you've been driving for like 10 hours and then all of a sudden you see this really cool place on the side of the road that has a 20-foot large painting on it that says "hole in a rock." And it's like, what is that? What could possibly be a hole in a rock? So I definitely recommend either visiting or looking into this. The people who built this home are really amazing, and the people who own it are amazing. And I went there when I was, I got probably 10, and I still remember everything to this day. It was just an amazing experience. I am going to pass it on to Caitlin.
Hi, I'm Caitlin. Mackenzie, that was beautiful hearing about what you just said. So I'm gonna talk about this is all the way across the world in Tokyo, Japan. It's an anti-procrastination cafe. Um, if you search it on Google Maps, it'll be called the Manuscript Writing Cafe, but to many people, it's just the anti-procrastination cafe. So, of course, for those people who have social media, we may often see like themed cafes or pop-up booths on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok. And I myself included have often seen these things. Like my favorite personally was when I saw a Hello Kitty cafe like 2 months ago. And I texted my friend, I was like, we need to go here. But it was all the way across in California, and I live on the East Coast of the United States. So no chance. So yeah, we often hear about like Hello Kitty is a very popular thing about among like young teens. Um, but not as many people have heard about the anti-procrastination cafe in Japan. However, a lot of people have experienced procrastination, myself included. It's a huge struggle for me. Sometimes I really, really need to get something done, and I don't start until like 11 o'clock at night, or I have the test due the next day, and I just drag it on to the very end. So I feel like this anti-procrastination cafe, not only is it like a cute little tourist destination, I also think it's honestly a great innovation, a great idea. So even though this cafe is in Japan, I feel that the anti-procrastination cafe is a great place to be. Um Oftentimes I hear about like um places that are originally beautiful being ruined by tourism, and I don't think Japan is one of those places. Um so more about the anti-procrastination cafe. In order to enter, it's actually a pretty small cafe. I saw pictures about of it, and it is small. So gotta be motivated. So in order to be admitted into the cafe, you have to have a specific goal, more specifically a specific writing goal. So they want you to write on a sheet of paper how many words you're going to write and what time you will finish. I know in America we don't really think about, oh, how many words unless it's like a essay, but um the concept of words basically is much different in Japan than it is in America. So, um moving on, every hour you will be asked how far along you are towards your progress to your goal. And there's different ways they'll ask you. You can choose whether they'll like aggressively like rush you, or they can just like check in on how you're doing. So if you choose the aggressive method, like they will like peer over you, they will stand behind you and cross their arms intimidatingly until you finish. But if you choose the more mild option, you can they'll just check in on how you're doing, and even if you don't finish, as long as you've made progress, they'll be happy. And this one is kind of funny, but you can't leave the store until you're done. So to tackle procrastination, I honestly think this cafe, not being allowed to leave the store, that's a little bit scary, but honestly, it's the anti-procrastination cafe, I feel, really doesn't feel like scary or anything like that. Really more so encourages you to get your work done. However, a lot of people have said that they feel pressured or a lot of tension in the cafe, and I feel like that's the only reason that is because everyone's struggling to finish their deadlines or trying hard to reach their goals. So I think honestly the pressure and tension is good because it'll motivate you to finish whatever goal you set. So the prices to enter the cafe is actually really cheap. It's $1.15 for the first 30 minutes and $2 for the next hour. Like every hour you pay $2. So I honestly feel that this anti-procrastination cafe if possible, definitely think they should bring it to America, or at least like in surrounding areas, because um I feel like everyone has at least had this struggle of procrastinating at least once. If not many times like me. So I feel like even schools should like have something like this, like a fun way to get you to do your work, fun and effective. So, um, that's that's about it for the anti-procrastination cafe. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I will say I just had to finish a 10-page research paper for my English class. I procrastinated until it was the second to last day before it was due. It was a struggle, and I will say that like being able to have a cafe like this in the US would be amazing. Um, I definitely like that it's just enough pressure to make you want to do it, but it's not too much to where, you don't want to. Do you think that you'll ever, like, if they don't bring these cafes to the US, do you think you'll ever try to go to Japan and go to this cafe?
Yes, 100%. Actually, I see like just like media of like tourism in Japan, like in general on like Instagram. And honestly, I really want to go. Like when I was younger, my parents just took me there and I felt like I didn't really get to experience what I really wanted to experience. I really just went along with what my parents wanted. Like they wanted to visit 6 shrines a day and I was like 6 years old being dragged along with them. So I feel like if I got to go and choose where I wanted to go, this would definitely be on the list.
Yes, I agree, especially with like my parents going on road trips and stuff. They make a lot of decisions when you're younger, but Japan is definitely on my bucket list too. I just I'm a big foodie and their food looks amazing, so that's definitely on my bucket list for that reason. Um, so would anyone like to ask questions about what anyone shared? Yeah, Earth.
So it's not a question, but Caitlin, the procrastination cafe actually made me remember this restaurant, an introvert a restaurant in Japan where nobody sees anybody. They go in and they just, I don't know, I guess they order into like a little box and they don't see the chef, the I don't know, they just don't see anybody and they just stay in like a little room by themselves, not interacting. And I was like, and I would really love a cafe right now at the procrastination cafe because I have like 3 art projects that I need to do that's due on Monday and I don't feel like doing any of them. But yeah.
Oh my gosh, I know exactly what you're talking about. I've actually been to a few of those myself. Not only do they have it in Japan, they have a few in Taiwan. However, the line very long in Taiwan. I think the first time, no, maybe the first 2 times I went, 4 hours. I was there until like 1 a.m. It was ridiculous. But honestly, I really like the noodles there, like ramen noodles. They were so good. Yeah, you sit in like a little booth, but like if you're like going like I went with my dad the first time, like you can like open like the little booth walls so that you can like still talk to your dad or um just pass the salt or things like that. I think it's really cute. Like you sit on a stool and I feel like it's a really good option for like people who are like alone, like on like just going to work, like eating something before work or something like that. Yeah.
No, I definitely agree because honestly, for me, if I went to Taiwan and the line was 4 hours long, I would leave because I don't want to, be with anybody and I just want to be alone. I would run away.
I definitely uh I know what you guys are talking about too. I've never had the privilege to going one to one. I've never had the privilege of going out of the country. But I've definitely it looks really cool and the 4 hour line, like Earth said, that might push people away a little bit, but if the food's worth it, if the food's worth it. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to share?
One more thing about the booth. I just feel like if you go in Taiwan, there's like I think there's only like 2 locations or so. So of course, like, and I think like Taiwanese people, like it's just like a fun thing for them. And then like Taiwanese people, they love waiting in line. Like my parents are Taiwanese, they love waiting in line. My Taiwanese friends all waiting in line all the time for like a new release or whatever. But I feel like in Japan, I feel like there's more of them, so I feel like there wouldn't be that 4 hour line. If anything, there'd probably be lines for more fancier restaurants.
Hmm. Yeah, because a lot of stuff in Japan, I feel like, is a lot closer to each other, and there's a lot more of everything. Yeah. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to share?
I actually have a question for you, Mackenzie.
Mhm.
You mentioned a bit about how like you and your parents go on like road trips, and I find that really interesting. Can you talk a little bit about like how long you've been doing road trips? Because yeah, or like your experience with road trips, or like maybe one of your favorites.
Um, that's a hard one because so I used to live in Colorado, and we used to drive to Utah, Wyoming, all those places, and that's just like an 8 hour drive. Um, and I will say driving in desert is not very fun, but when you do come across something, it's exciting. But when we moved up to Maine, driving through like Indiana, Chicago, Ohio, like that was the best experience being able to drive through there. And a fast food chain I think is very underrated is White Castle, because my dad used to live in Chicago, and he introduced me to that, and I am in love. It is amazing. I know some people don't agree, but I would definitely say going from Colorado to Maine and Maine to Colorado is the best road trip ever, at least for me. It's if you don't take any breaks, it's a 36-hour drive. So it's it is a very, you have to be very committed. Definitely bring more than one person if you're doing that in one go. But yes, just being able to drive through different states and just seeing what like how everything is in different states and how everything's spread out, because everything's spread out differently when you go through these states. Um, but yeah, driving through Arizona was also fun, but it was very hot. So yeah.
I imagine you have like a lot of patience as a person going on
Yes.
all of those car trips. I cannot be in a car for like more than like 3 hours, so I admire that. Oh, my dog in the background, sorry. But yeah, also I love White Castle. It's so good.
I'm
There's a lot
glad someone
to it.
agrees. Yeah, I don't know how, but as a 10-year-old, I was going 8 hours, keeping myself entertained. Um, but like my family's always been big into road trips. Like my grandpa, he used to drive all over the country because he used to work for AT&T in like the 70s and 80s, so he pretty much had to drive everywhere. But yeah, thank you for asking. Road trips is definitely something I want to keep doing as I get older. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? No?
Wait,
Well,
I have another question. I have a question for Ethan because we both live in New York, and I know you mentioned Times Square is a place you really like. So I just wanted to know like where's your favorite place to go in Times Square? Because I know I go to Times Square a lot after school to eat because there's so much good food there. But I want to know what's your favorite part about it.
Honestly, I kind of deviate from that location because it's always so touristy. But on the times that I do go to Manhattan, to be fair, I head over to Bryant Park and I go shop at the Muji store over there, which is a Japanese retail store, which I have been getting a lot of things for my family because they're all actually I trying to learn Japanese as a language because they're all trying to immerse themselves in Japanese culture recently. So they're kind of using me as a little puppet to shop for them. But besides that though, we kind of just chill out in Bryant Park and Winter Village, but when it's open, and sometimes to go down to West 4th Street to visit some friends as well.
Yeah, I love Bryant Park too. I've gone only a few times, but it was really, really fun. There's also a lot in that area. And I also love Muji. I went recently and there is so much. I thought it was just like a stationery store, but there is like a lot in Muji. Like there are like, yeah, it's like all like home essentials and also like school stuff too. It's amazing.
Yeah, I would like to add on to that. Even though I actually went to Muji a couple months ago, in my Japanese visual storytelling class, an elective class at school, we're actually going to be taking a trip to the store. So I'm probably going to be spending a jackpot, like a huge amount of money, both for myself and my family. And then when I go show my teacher, hey, look what I bought, and she's like, what the? She's going to be like so surprised, like, you have so much money on you, why? Stuff like that. But I'm just going to be like, it's for the family, you know?
I love that. Thank you everyone for sharing, and thank you for a great discussion and asking great questions. So thank you for listening. I think I said that already, but thank you for listening, and we will see you guys in the next episode. Thank you, and bye.
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 Thank
Take care.
you.